when it comes to implementing a meditative practice, there are a lot of misconceptions out there which can actually prevent people pushing the discipline and practice in place because they feel like as if they're a failure at it. And I suppose some of the most common misconceptions are, first of all, that meditation is a panacea for feeling bad. You know, that you just sit and close your eyes and you're going to feel better. And people kind of turn to it as an escapism or an avoidance for whatever it is that's going on in your life. And yet the reality is, oftentimes when we're meditating, we create the silent space for some of our most difficult thoughts and emotions to come up, and that can really make people feel like as if they're doing something wrong, whereas in fact that's actually a really good practice, you know, because meditation ultimately is about creating an awareness of our emotions and of our thoughts and being able to observe them and being able to slow down our responses as a consequence. And I think it's Viktor Frankl that says that between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space there is an opportunity for growth and for creating meaning. Now that's not the exact quotation, but it's along those lines. And I suppose another one of the misconceptions that I see is that people assume that you need to be able to switch off your thoughts completely. Now, unless you're a Tibetan monk that has spent several years on a silent retreat talking to nobody, then the likelihood is that you're not going to be able to switch off your thoughts, or at least I know I'm not. And it's recognizing that it's not about that. It's not about kind of being able to switch off completely. It's about becoming an observer of your own mind and an observer of your own somatic experience. And it's understanding your emotions, being able to be in your body and to be present within your own life. And I suppose it also helps us to develop mindfulness as well. And mindfulness is more about kind of being present in whatever it is that you're doing on a daily basis. And meditation can help us do that, because oftentimes we live our lives and we're completely detached from what we're doing. We're always in our minds thinking about what we should be or what other people think of us, or, you know, how we can avoid dealing with what is going on in this very present moment, as opposed to being where we are. And I suppose some of the main fundaments of meditation are, first of all, concentration, and that's basically being able to focus, you know, and that is really difficult for a lot of us. We live in this very fast moving world and our minds are always moving all over the place, and it's about being very aware, very clear about where you are at any given time, and observing your thoughts, because the more you can see how you think, the more you can realize how oftentimes our thoughts can be so destructive and negative and hurtful and unbeneficial and unhelpful in our day-to-day lives. So it's kind of recognizing the way in which we think, recognizing how much our past experiences influence how we interpret things, and being able to maybe rationalize that a little bit and ask ourselves if we are really seeing things clearly, because meditation does give us that opportunity to slow things down, to look at our thought process and to obtain greater clarity about what exactly is going on. And I suppose that's the second element. It's getting clarity, understanding why we think the way we do, why we feel the way we do, being able to tolerate those thoughts and feelings, and to be able then to decide on appropriate action that is in alignment with who we want to be as people, as opposed to being highly reactive all of the time, or not even being aware of our thoughts or aware of our actions. And then the final part is acceptance. It's about equanimity. It's about realizing that what is. And I know that sounds like a very simple concept, but the reality is most of us are fighting against our reality on a daily basis. places. We have to make peace with what is, as opposed to always kind of wanting to be somewhere else, always being in a state of denial about what's actually going on for us, and recognizing that we're not always going to feel happy. We are going to struggle in life, but that's part and parcel of living. And the more we can avoid fighting our situation, the more we can be discerning about what it is that we need to do in order to change our situation. And the more we can be present with ourselves, the more likely we are to be present with other people, the more likely we are to be aware of other people's circumstance, and a little less egocentric, because again, so much of what we think about is very selfish and very self-centered, and it's allowing yourself to think a little beyond the self. It's allowing yourself to see others with compassion as well as seeing yourself with compassion, because it's a non-judgmental practice as well, because sometimes some of the thoughts that come up, they're not all that kind. And it's recognizing that you're human, but also recognizing that you do not have to live your life according to how you think, that you have the autonomy within you, the agency within you to challenge your thoughts, challenge your conditioning, challenge who you think you have to be, and be the person who you actually want to be, And it's recognizing that you're not going to get up off your meditation practice and be like, okay, yeah, my life is substantially different. But in a very subtle, incremental way, you will notice, if you stick with a disciplined and dedicated practice, that you do become more aware of the gaps, and you can slow down your responses, or you can catch your responses and maybe be a little bit wiser about how you go about things, how you engage with other people, how you allow other people to trigger certain things in you. So it's kind of like brushing or flossing your teeth. You don't see immediate results, but it's of benefit to you in the long run. And I suppose it's then kind of trying to recognize what type of meditation works for you. And I mean, there's so many different types out there, and sometimes they sound in contradiction of each other. I mean, some of them, they tell you to focus on a specific image in your mind. Some of them tell you to focus on some auditory input, some sort of sound. Some ask you to try to not think of any words. Some of them put a mantra in place. I mean, there's so many different types. I particularly like a somatic a meditation, where I try to focus on what is happening within the body, and I check in with all my body parts, because I do tend to kind of be in my head, and I really find it beneficial to be in my body, to feel any tension, to recognize what's going on, and to honor that, because the better we are at recognizing our emotions and being able to tolerate particularly the more distressing emotions, then the less likely we are to react badly and to fear our behaviors. Because once our emotions aren't out of our control, well, then we don't have to fear how we respond. We don't have to be always watching our behavior, because it'll come from a place of love and authenticity and just genuine and consciousness and presence. And it's also worthwhile noting that you do not have to invest a huge amount of time in a meditative practice. I don't. I do about 10 minutes every day, and if I'm lucky, I try it again in the evening time. So I try to do it first thing in the morning, and sometimes I stretch to 15, but you can start off with just 30 seconds to a minute, just basically closing your eyes and trying to observe your thoughts as they come through. And every time you notice yourself getting distracted or getting caught up in your thoughts, basically just bringing it back to observation. That's what it's about. It's basically noticing that you've gone into autopilot, bringing yourself back, noticing you're gone, bringing yourself back. And if that's all you do, then that is a successful practice, and as I said, build it up incrementally, and you will notice significant differences in your life. If you would like help getting to a state of better awareness of the self, if you want to understand yourself a little bit better, or indeed if you want to work through any issues that you're currently experiencing, get in touch with me on the website. It's fundamentals.ie.